Hello, my name is Olivia Sullivan, and this is the homework assignment on the Love Canal. So, the Love Canal is one of the most appalling environmental tragedies that we have had in the American history. It was William T. Love. It was his idea to dig a short canal between the Niagara Rivers because his dream was for that area to become a beautiful community for people to live in. Shortly after, that dream of William Love was crushed, and the canal was turned into a municipal and an industrial chemical dump site. This Love Canal will always be a great example of what not to do in an operation like this and how to go about a certain way when using chemicals and then building a community on top of it. The land was covered with earth and sold for $1 in the late 50s, and about 100 homes and a public school was built on that land. It was a working class community for a little while until disaster happened. In 1978, the New York Times wrote about the Love Canal and the 82 different compounds and 11 carcinogens that have been moving up through the soil, making it to the Earth's surface. Their drum containers rotting and leaching their contents into the backyards and basement of 100 homes and the public school that was built on the land. It was suspected that the Love Canal would explode, and it did just a few months later after the New York Times came out with the article about all of the dangerous hazards that might come. The explosion was triggered by a record-setting amount of rain that brought all of the chemicals and all of the dangerous components, lifted them up from the soil, and that is how it came to the Earth's surface, was an extremely large amount of rain. Waste disposal drums would be found breaking through the ground after the rain, and trees and gardens were turning black from all the chemicals, and everything was dying. The air was extremely polluted and full of all the chemicals, so when children would go outside and play, they would come home and they would have extreme burns from all the chemicals on their face and their hands. From this time, there was also extreme birth defects that happened while the women were pregnant. All of the chemicals and everything that was in their air, they were breathing in, breathing out, the baby was breathing it in, caused major birth defects. And for such a small community, there was a lot. So it was a big problem in the Love Canal. People living in the Love Canal were being observed because there was a high amount of white blood cell counts, and pregnant women and the infants, once they were being evacuated out of that area, they were the first to go. One of the most prevalent chemical was benzene in this area, and that is extremely dangerous. After a while, the New York governor announced that the state government would purchase the homes affected by the chemicals, and also President Carter approved of the emergency financial aid for the Love Canal area. And then after that, the U.S. Senate approved a sense of Congress. So that was very helpful to everybody in that community. By the end of the month, 221 families have moved out of the Love Canal or agreed to begin moving out. A plan was being set into motion to implement technical procedures designed to detoxify the canal, which seemed to be almost impossible, but the plan called for trench systems to drain the chemicals from the canal.